Walaikum salam, Uzma. So glad you could make it. Glad you found it easily. Okay. Okay, Silva. Glad you could find it. Okay, a couple of other people have to join. I hope they hurry up. I'm just going to turn the volume off. Okay, if you guys want to grab yourself some snacks and a drink or anything like that, we have a couple minutes. I just want everybody to try and start on time, well, at the same time at least, not on time, but at least at the same time, so that we don't have to go back and explain what's going on to people who are coming in later. And please remember, if you have any questions, then text them into the comments so that I will keep track of that so that I can answer your questions as soon as possible. And I hope everybody's enjoying this really nice weather, although it's kind of hot, but I mean, sitting inside in the air conditioning, I can't complain. So it's really nice outside. And I've taken some time to make a zen little corner in my balcony, because this is where I spend most of my time painting and making the little process videos for YouTube. So put some plants and a container pond in my balcony for me to enjoy. Okay, so I hope everybody has paint ready. You need yellow, brown or burnt umber, black, blue. This is ultramarine blue. You can use any blue that you have. And red. This red is naphthol red. It's a slightly darker and less orange, more red kind of shade, and of course white. Whatever paintbrushes you have are good. Okay, and of course you need a plate or something to use as a palette. You can use a plastic lid or a plastic plate, disposable paper plate, anything works. A cup of water, your paintbrushes, and some paper towel. And I think I will start taking out the paint, and then whoever comes, they can just kind of see where we are so far and go from there, because it is already 4:07. Burnt sienna is a little reddish color. Burnt umber is more of a brown, like a blackish brown, but burnt sienna is fine. If that's what you have, that's fine. You can always mix a little bit black to that if you need. Once it's on your canvas, you can kind of decide if you want to make it darker. So you could add either a little bit of blue to that to overcome that redness that is there in burnt sienna, or you can add a tiny bit of black. If you want, you can just mix a little bit in your palette and do a small patch test on a corner of your canvas and then paint it black later. So bright red works. Bright red works. If you want to dull the color down a bit, you will just add a little bit of brown to it. So if bright red is what you have and you don't have like a darker, duller red, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Okay, so I am just going to start taking out the paint. and I think we should start with the lighter colors, and that way if we need to go over them, we have time for it to dry, because acrylic paint does dry a bit darker in shade. So if you give it some time to dry, then you can, once that's dry, if you want to lighten it up or brighten it up later, you can go back and do that. So I use Amsterdam acrylic paints. These are not the super expensive high grade artist paint that are hyped as like Liquitex or Winsor and Newton, but I find they do the job just as well. They have a lot of pigment in them. The color is really good. They are light fast, so that means they stand the test of time, and they come in like a bigger quantity. Like some of the tubes of paint are like this tiny, and they are super expensive, so I don't go for those. This is leftover from a project or a commission that I once had. And what I do is I just get these. These are like, I think it was $5.90 or $6, something like that, for a tube. It's 120 ml, and it lasts a long time. And I know a lot of professional artists, they actually just use this, and they will use it for even their gallery work. So if it's a really good paint, and it doesn't cost a fortune. So hi, Anna. I'm glad you could join us. Okay, so right now I just have the yellow out, and can you see that? Okay. Ignore how disgusting and how much leftover paint I have on my palette. Clean your palettes better. Don't be like me. Just taking out some red, and I'm going to take out some brown. I don't take out a lot of paint at a time. Take out a little bit. You can always take out more. It's hard to get back into the tube if you have leftover. And the other thing is, because it's acrylic, it dries pretty quick, and then you just end up wasting a lot of paint. So just take out a little bit at a time. So I'm taking out this is almost done. I need to order some art supplies. I know, I've just been feeling so lazy, and I find I just kind of put everything off. So I do have to order some art supplies. So I've got, you can see the quantity here. Okay, not a whole lot of paint at the same time. Even this is going to be like more than I need. So just take out a little bit at a time. And you can get these at the dollar shop or any art supply store, and at the dollar shop I think it was like a package of 3 of these bottles for like $2 or something. And I keep these for, especially when I'm doing acrylic, I just spritz that onto my paint a couple of times. Not too much water, just like 2 sprays are fine. It keeps them damp while you're working, because especially like in this weather when you've got your air conditioning on and it's like warm, I mean, just being out in the air, acrylic paint starts to dry. So it's a good idea to spritz that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to adjust the camera so that you guys can see what I'm painting and follow along. And okay, so I guess whoever's joining late will just have to try and catch up. Okay, there we go. Okay, I'm just gonna bring this down to this level. Have a nice ride down. Okay, I'll bring this a bit closer. Okay, let's see how that, oh, okay, that's actually pretty good. I'm gonna take a couple minutes to adjust this. I hope you guys don't get dizzy. I think that looks good. Okay, that works. Okay, can you guys still hear me okay? I'm just going to adjust my laptop a bit. Okay, so we're going to start out with the lighter color. Let me just pull up the picture. And as I said, if you're following along on your laptop, that's really great because you can see the work better on full screen. So yeah, I did give instructions to paint the background black. If you don't have a black background, that's fine. Just go ahead and follow along, and then you can fill in the black background afterwards. You'll have to do that as soon as you finish the candles, unless you want to do it really quickly now and then catch up with us, because we are going to be painting the blurred blue lights on it, at Bouquet Effect, so that will need a black background. This sounds great. Oh, okay, that's thank you, Anna. Okay, so if you want to go ahead and really quickly paint, at least, okay, like get this area black, because this is where we're going to be painting in those blue lights. So just, around here like this, get all that area black, and then leave the sides. You can do those later. This is where we're going to be adding in those blurred blue lights, okay? So you are going to need the black background for that. So really quickly, just go in and do that, and then you can start with the rest of the painting. Okay, so you see that? This is the paintbrush I'm starting with. This is a flat straight-edged paintbrush. And what I'm going to do is we're going to start with the main, body of the candles. And so it's good to have this something wide enough to fill in the area quickly. Dampen your paintbrush. Get rid of the excess water. Okay. Have enough paper towels handy. Okay, and what I'm going to do is, see if you can see this here. Okay, right on the same paintbrush, I'm going to take some red, okay, just on the edge of my paintbrush, and I'm going to take some yellow. Okay, not mixing it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with these edges. I'm just going to go in, cover that white line, and start pulling down that yellow and red. Okay. Just going to make this outline first. And you do want to cover all those white lines that you had. Okay, so just go over them. Make sure they're all hidden. And I'm just going to start pulling this down. Okay, and as I'm coming down, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take more red. Okay. And less yellow. So I didn't take yellow the second time I went in. And I'm just pulling this down. Okay. Not going down all the way, because if you look at the reference photo, your colors disappear into darkness, because this is all a very dark area. The only thing that's focused is the candles. And then you've got the lights here, which are out of focus. That's called a bouquet effect. And everything else just kind of disappears into darkness. And it's a really beautiful effect. you have to look at your painting and kind of decide how much more red or yellow you need to add. Okay, I want this to be just a bit brighter, so I've just taken some yellow. I'm just going in with that, pulling that down because this area is a bit more illuminated, glows a bit more. Okay, and you will hear that awful sound you just heard. From time to time, I've turned off all the notifications on my phone, but for some reason my phone insists on letting me know that Facebook or WhatsApp or whatever else has a message and something is going on there. So it just starts making that sound and vibrating. Okay, get around that flame. You don't want to paint over that. You do want to smooth out that line so you don't see those curve marks from the brush, okay? Okay, this side is a bit brighter, and I'm going to leave it that way because this side is more in darkness, so as this dries, you can see the red is getting darker, and I'm not going to brighten that. And this side, I'm going to brighten just a little bit with the yellow, because if you look at the reference photo, this side is a bit more illuminated because you've got this candle glowing over here, but there's darkness over here. So, okay. And this is a corner. Okay, so what we're going to do is just kind of make sure that you remember this side is a bit darker, this side is a bit lighter. Just going to go in and take some red, bring that down. And take some red with the yellow and cover this corner here. Okay, if your canvas is peeking out too much, don't forget to dampen your brush a bit if your brush is getting dry, and just go over it gently with some more paint. Okay, so I can see some areas of black peeking out here, and I want to just go over that. You might be able to see some designs. This was actually a canvas that had some stuff on it. I just painted over it, so there is a bit of texture there. Okay, I'm just going to take some more red. I've run out. And okay, on this side, what you want to do is, I'm not rinsing out my paintbrush, I'm just going in and taking that brown. Okay, right on the edge of my paintbrush again. I'm not covering the whole paintbrush. You don't need to cover the whole paintbrush to paint, right? This kind of wastes your paint. So always make sure you're getting it on the edge. Unless, of course, you're filling in a very large area and you're using the whole paintbrush. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is just about here, I'm going to take that brown and start going up. I didn't start all the way at the bottom, and I'm not starting at one level. Here I started a little bit higher. Okay, and I'm just taking that brown and I'm going up. So what it does is just makes that red fade into darkness gradually and not all of a sudden just turn black. Okay. Don't forget, if your paintbrush is getting dry and the paint is starting to give you a hard time as you pull it, you just need to dampen your brush a bit. Okay, so we started with light colors and pulled them down, and then we took the dark brown and we pulled that up. And again, Selva, I know you have burnt sienna. If you want to darken that a bit, just add in a touch of blue or black and figure out how much you need. You're going to have to kind of look at your own canvas and figure that out. And just mix a little at a time so you don't end up wasting a whole lot of paint. And then just go in with the brown and see if it's the shade you want. Okay. Again, I'm just going to take this brown on the edge of my brush, and right here also I'm just going to pull that up gently so that it's a very gradual change. It doesn't just go from red to dark black all of a sudden. Okay? And what it does is it gives you that impression that this is all illuminated and it's getting darker as you go down. I'm just rinsing out my paintbrush because I want to go over these edges with a bit more yellow, because as it dries you can see it's gotten a bit dull. So I'm just going to take that yellow on the edge of my paintbrush and just the edges here, I'm going to go in and pull that down, especially because I can see a little bit of that canvas peeking out, which I don't want. I will fix this later. Okay, and on this side I'm taking a little bit of red with the yellow because I don't want it to be too bright. I'm just going to go over it. I'm basically just hiding those gaps that I can see peeking out, that black canvas, which I don't want to see. And just pull it down gently. Okay, so that's the first candle. And now I'm going to go on to the one in the back. And again, that is a bit blurrier, so I'm just taking on that same brush, I'm taking red on the edge of my brush. I already had some yellow there. Just going to take a little bit more. This one isn't as bright, remember, so it's more faded and much duller than this one that's brightly illuminated. So just starting here, I'm going to come down like that. And for this area, I'm going to take a little bit more yellow, because if you look in the picture, you know, you've got your candle burning here, so of course this will be a bit lighter. So taking that yellow, a little bit of red, I'm just gonna fill this, and this is a bit too dark, so I'm gonna take some more yellow. I'm just gonna fill this area in. This is the top part of the candle that's visible. Okay, you can use the corner of your brush to fill in the smaller areas. Okay, and then it just kind of disappears behind this candle. And again, because the layer of red paint is quite thin and I can see that canvas peeking out from the back and I can still see those lines, I'm just taking some more red and I'm going to go in and cover that. Okay, and this has gotten quite bright, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to first lay down that red paint, cover those lines. Okay, and then I'm going to take my brown. I need some more brown. Henna, I don't know From my side, everything seems to be okay. I have a pretty good internet connection. I don't know if other people are having problems watching the video or not. Maybe give it a couple minutes and let it clear up. Is anybody else having any issues watching the video? Okay, just let me know. Okay, so I've taken out some more brown. Now again, I'm just going to take that on the edge of my paintbrush, and I'm going to pull that up because this red is a bit too bright, and I want to darken that because this candle is a bit further in the background. Okay, so just darkening that up a bit. Just going to blend that in a bit. You can see too many lines. Okay. Okay, thank you for letting me know, Anna. So Hina, you might want to check your internet connection. Maybe it needs to be, you need to turn it off and on again. Sometimes I know a lot of people have been saying that their internet connection goes wonky after a while. Okay. I'm just going to start on the next candle now. Let me pull the picture up. Okay, so this candle is in a lot of darkness, and what you see is mainly just some reflections over here. And it's much lower than these candles. The candle is also, the flame is also much smaller. And it just gives this really nice dramatic effect of being in a lot of darkness. So what I'm going to do is, same brush, I haven't rinsed it out yet. I've got some red on there. I'm just going to take a little more red, tiny bit of yellow, and some brown, and see how this turns out first. So I'm just going to go in and fill this area here, this round area. Okay, and I've got my white lines there, which I can see through the paint, so I know where to add those reflected highlights that are reflecting off of the melted wax. And this is pretty much all in darkness, so I'm not too worried about it right now. And I'm going to let that kind of just dry out, and then as that dries, it will get a bit darker, and then I can figure out, okay, do I need to lighten it a bit when I'm adding those reflections in. For now, what I'm going to do is, I'm just on the same, again, I haven't rinsed the paintbrush. I'm just going to take some brown with the red, and I'm just going to go down here, just so that you can see some of the body of that candle going down. I know in the picture that I have, I cannot see it at all, but I'm just going to take some of that brown to give it that hint of the candle going down into that area. And when we come back, when this is dry, we're going to add those bright reflections right in this area. Okay, now for the next candle, you might want to rinse out your paintbrush really well, first of all. That's okay, Hannah. I'm so sorry that you couldn't paint along. If you want to leave it on for a little while, sometimes, it starts up again. If you just want to watch and enjoy the video. And then, of course, I will save it so you can come back to it and catch the beginning and, all the parts that you've missed. Okay, so I'm just rinsing out my paintbrush. Make sure you rinse it out really well. You want to get all that brown out, because this candle is lighter and this area is like really illuminated. You don't want any brown in there. Okay, so from the picture I can see I've got this nice, really glowy orange color, so I'm just going to go and take the red, take the yellow, and there are some details over here. What we're going to do first of all is just kind of fill in the colors. So you can see the edges of this candle right here, and then it kind of disappears into the darkness over here, and it's nice and bright over here. So again, I've just got that red and yellow, and I'm just filling in this area over here as well. We're going to come back, and I can still see the lines. We are going to add the details so that this area looks like it's just a bit sunken in because of the melted wax. Just this area is a bit brighter. Blend that in. Get all your lines. You don't want those white pencil lines showing up. Okay, no problem, Hina. I hope you get around to painting it, and then please do send me the picture. Okay, so this area is really illuminated in this candle, and the rest just kind of falls immediately into darkness around here. So I'm just going to take the brown, and I haven't rinsed my paintbrush, so I still have some red and yellow in there, and I'm just going to go straight down from these edges. Cover up those lines over there. Cover up this one too. And I'm going to do the same on this side. I'm just taking the brown and going straight down. I know you can see like red and yellow on the side of my brush, but this side only has brown. I'm just going to grab some more brown. I'm running out now. Just gonna raise this a bit to get at this bottom part. I want to make sure I get those white lines covered. Grab some more paint and make it thicker over here. Cover those lines. Okay, and of course I haven't pulled it all the way down, I've just kind of let it fade into the darkness. Okay, and I've got some lines over here also that I want to cover. Okay, and I can see some white lines over here. I'm going to go over that with black afterwards to get rid of those. So this is basically just the main outline. Okay, blocking in the colors first of all. And it's easier just to block in colors first and then go in with the details. And as your paint dries, you can see like if you need anything anywhere. So this area seems a bit odd. I'm just going to take the brown and pull that up on this candle. Otherwise it just looks like it's sitting on a brown triangle. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to let go of that paintbrush and take a smaller round tip pointy paintbrush, and I'm going to go in for the candles now. And what I'm going to do first of all is take out some white. Because we're using a black canvas, and a lot of the yellow ends up being very transparent. So the best thing to do if you want to fill in an area that has a lot of bright color in it is to go over it with white first. And these candles, like the flames, are like really, really bright, so you don't want to not have that effect. So I'm just going to go in and fill in that flame shape with white. And try to make it nice and smooth so you don't have too many brush strokes. Unless, of course, you like that effect, then you can go ahead and leave that. And this is just titanium white. Okay, so just grabbing some more white paint and getting this candle, this flame rather. And this one is in the foreground and looks the biggest, so you want to make that just a bit bigger. Okay, and the bottom of the flame does get a bit dark, so I'm not going all the way to the bottom because I'm going to be filling that in with a darker color again, so I don't want to color that. And this candle also, there's a lot of darkness over here, so I'm just going to be filling in this much. And this one kind of looks like an upside down heart. I'm going in with a second layer just around this middle part because that is the brightest part. So I want to make sure that it's nice and well covered with the white paint. so that it can be as bright and brilliant as possible. Okay, if your yellow paint has got a lot of red on it, you might want to take some fresh yellow paint just in a separate little corner so that you don't get that orangey effect, because the flames are pretty bright. And what you want to do is take some white and take a little bit of fresh yellow and just mix it in with that white. So you've got this really nice, very bright yellow color. Okay, and I'm going to start with just hold on a sec. Just mix your yellow, and I will be there in just a second. Okay, so what you've got is this nice light yellow. And don't forget, if your paint is getting a bit dry or too thick, just add a drop of water to that. And grab my picture, and I'm just going to go in and start filling this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this middle part. So if you want to draw an oval there, just go ahead. And I'm going to leave that middle part, and I'm going to do all the outside of that oval shape I just made right here in the middle, so that the center part of your candle is like really bright white. Okay, and I am going to go in with white afterwards and fill that in again. Okay, and I'm just going to get all this, the rest of this. I'm going to let that dry and go into the next candle. And again, I'm making this oval inside it. And I'm going to leave the middle part white and get all the edges with this nice bright yellow. And don't forget to take pictures of your process so that you have a nice little story to share of how your painting started from just that blank canvas all the way into the finished product. Okay, so if you look at this candle, this has got this shape like this, okay? And this part is a bit reddish and dark, and from here, it's got a bit of this yellow, and then the middle is quite bright and brilliant, so I'm going to leave that, and I might lighten it even more because this is the brightest candle, the brightest flame. Okay. And if you can still see some of the canvas peeking out from the back, don't worry, you can go over that. Sometimes it's good to just let the layers dry first and then come back to them. And this also, I'm just going to go kind of trace this shape that is outlining it and leave that middle part and come back to that with just plain white. Okay, so I'm just going to get out some fresh white. And again, just take out a little bit of paint at a time. You don't need to take out a whole lot because it does dry and it goes to a waste. Okay, I've just rinsed out my paintbrush, and don't forget to wipe off that excess water. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just taking some white paint with the tip of my brush. And I'm going into, well, I'll start with the one that's dry first. This one, and I'm just going to go in with the white. And get that middle part really nice and bright. Okay, and I still have that yellow, so I'm just going to take a bit of that on the tip of my brush, and I'm going to just blend it a little bit into this area where that white and the bright yellow are meeting. Okay, so that I don't have any distinct lines. Okay, so you've got your white in the middle, and you're just going to take that yellow that you had on the tip of your brush and go in and start blending it in the edges of that white. And also going over any messy edges I have, or anywhere I can see the canvas peeking out. And I'm just going to do that with all the rest of these flames. I just want to brighten this up even more. Just taking some white and going over it a bit more. And pushing that right out into the corners. Okay. Again, I'm just going to take the white and go right into the middle. And take that yellow color that I had and blend it. Into the edges. Okay. Rinse out your paintbrush. and wipe off the extra water and just put that to the side. Never leave your paintbrushes in the water for too long, especially the ones that have pointy edges. It's pointy tips, it just spoils the tip. So I'm going to take an even thinner brush now. This is just a thin round tip brush. And we're going to take some of the orange and just do outlines, very thin outlines around the edges of the candle. Okay, so I'm just gonna rinse out the paintbrush, and I already have my yellow and reds out. So I'm just gonna take this yellow over here, take a little bit of red with that. And what I want is a kind of bright orange. And I think that looks good. Let's see what it looks like on the canvas. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and very gently outline this. Don't forget, you might need to add a drop of water. If your paint has been out for a while, it does get, acrylic paint tends to get thick, so, and it's water soluble, so just a little drop of water can help get it to the right consistency. And you don't want to add too much water because that will ruin the binding ability of it to stick to your canvas and other paint layers. And I'm just going around the flames and giving them that outline that you can see in the reference photo. I just took a little more yellow here at the top. I'm just going to bring that down on this side, trying to cover up any lines that aren't as neat as I'd like them to be. Okay, and there you've got your first flame. If you feel like your orange line isn't showing up enough, you can go over it again. Make it just a little bit thicker if you like. So that it's a bit more visible, but you don't want to overdo it and make it too thick. Then it won't look as realistic as it can. And I'm just going to do this for all of these flames. Okay, the tops have a bit more orange visible, so just going to get some more yellow and red up here. A little less in this part, and then there seems to be a little bit more over here at the bottom. Okay, if anybody has any questions, don't forget to let me know, text it in, and then I am checking to see if anybody has any questions so that I can answer them if you have a concern about something that needs help with right away, that you need help with right away. It's amazing how these tiny details start to make your painting just transform. Into something that looks so amazing. Okay, so for this flame, it's got a lot of orange over here as well. This is the one that's in focus. Okay, and I've left this area black because this bottom part of the flame is very transparent. You can see that wick, and this just seems to kind of glow. Okay, as I'm doing this candle, I really want this orange line on this one to be very, very thin. So when you want a thinner line, you are going to put very gentle pressure on your paintbrush. In fact, you're just kind of dragging it along, barely touching the surface of the canvas. The harder you press down on it, the thicker your line is going to be. So you just want to kind of drag it across and not press down on the brush at all. Okay, and now I'm going to go for the last one. I'm just taking a bit of white paint. So I feel like this is a bit too... It's going to blend that in a bit. A little bit of white. I'm just rinsing out my paintbrush. I'm going to take some plain white and go into this area because I can still see that dark canvas peeking out from the back. Okay. I'll go over this too. Okay, so there you've got your flames. And don't forget to rinse out your paintbrush. And what I'm going to go in is with some black and just kind of do this wick area here with that thin paintbrush. So you just need a tiny bit of black for this. And then I will come back to the other areas that need fixing up with the black afterwards. I just want to make sure this part looks like it should. So I'm going to cover up these white sketch lines. Okay, and I'm going to give this a bit of a round shape at the bottom here, because this is that part where we know that wax has melted and it's made a bit of this little ditch over here. So what I'm doing is I'm going to take the dark brown, burnt sienna, rinse out that black first. I want that in there. Just going to follow the bottom of that wick with this line that is going to go around behind the wick as well. I'm going to pull that brown down a little bit so that it's giving the impression of this little ditch here where the wax has melted. Okay, and that orange color that I made is what I'm taking right now, the one for the edge of the flame. And I'm just going to go over the top here so that this area looks like it's catching the light and highlighting that shape of this little ditch. I'm going to get that around over here too. Okay, and now I'm going to go back for all these little details on the candle. So you are more yellow and a little bit of red if you don't already have it out on your palette. Okay, so I've just got the yellow there. And this yellow that I have is a bit transparent. So if you find that you lay down a layer of paint and it still seems to be very light and everything, the canvas seems to be peeking through underneath it, you can just mix it with a little bit of whatever other color you need. So I'm going to mix that with a little bit of red because it is an orange kind of highlight anyways. got these colors here. I'm just going to go in and with the help of the reference photo, I'm going to try and add in all those brighter areas. So in the back of the candle, this is kind of all illuminated. In this area here is brightest. Okay, and then you can just take your red and then just blend that into the edges over here. You might want to take this plain yellow and go in and add the brighter highlights. And then your orange color again, and just kind of blend that in so that everything has this kind of gradual change in color and not distinct lines. Because it's not so much the color that is changing, it's just this area is brighter because of the flame burning near it, and this area gets darker. And of course some areas just reflect more light. Got a bit of light reflecting off of this edge over here. And that is probably due to that flame flickering up there. Just want to add a little bit of that. Okay, and I'm just going to do that for all of these now. I need to take the straight edged brush to do this because this has a bigger area. I'm just taking the red and the orange, oh sorry, the yellow and the orange. I'm just going to go over this area because I can still see a lot of the canvas peeking out. I need some more paint. So I'm just taking some yellow and some red to make more of that orange color over here. Going into this corner and pulling it down, because I can still see a lot of that dark canvas peeking out from the back. And sometimes it takes a couple layers of paint to cover it properly. And this corner is a bit brighter over here, this edge. And this gets a bit darker. Just want to get that. And when you're going around another shape, just take your time with it and very gently, so that you don't end up having to paint over different shapes constantly. The sun just disappeared in my room. Okay. I do have a bit of texture on my canvas. This is canvas that I had previously painted something on for a demo, and I didn't want to waste the canvas, so I just sanded it down and gessoed it with black so that I could use it today. Okay, and now you've got these lines that are very distinct and visible over here. So what I'm going to do again is I'm just going to take the brown. I haven't rinsed my brush out. I've got all that yellow and everything going on in there. And I'm just going to go over this area like that, so that I don't have a whole bunch of distinct areas. They just kind of fade into one another. Okay. And I want to do a bit more red over here, or at least a darker kind of orange. So I'm just going in with the red and yellow, less yellow and more red. And I'm going to add just a touch of brown to this color over here. Scrape that, whatever's left out. Enough to get some more paint. And don't forget, if your paint starts to get dry and you need to add a drop of water, it has been out for a while, so it will start to get dry at this point. You can spray it with a little spray bottle, or just add a couple drops with your paintbrush. I'm just going to go over this area. Get all that leftover paint that I have on my palette. And again, I'm just going in and pulling it right down into those darker areas. And I'm basically going to do that with all of them. Give this a bit more highlight over here. Okay, so for this candle in the back, we need to illuminate this area over here. So you want to rinse out your paintbrushes really well at this point. all that excess paint. And especially when you're painting details, you'll have to rinse and reload your paintbrush a couple times if you don't want big clumpy lines. So I'm just taking some more yellow, running out of that. Just more yellow and a little more red. I'm just going to go in and finish up these details, and then we're going to move on to those beautiful blue blurred out lights, and then neaten up the painting, and we will be done. So again, any questions anybody has, please do type them into the comments, and I will get to them. Okay, so I've got my red and my yellow. I've mixed a light orange first of all to get this area over here. I've got the reference photo out. You can see that this area is brighter right underneath the candle. The flame, sorry, not the candle. So I'm going to start with this orange, and I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to lighten it up even more. I'm going to let this dry first, and I'm just going to go in with that red and go around this area here. Oh, and I forgot to thank everybody who sent me donations. I will either this evening after we're finished up here, or tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon during the day sometime, I will send in the donations to Black Lives Matter Toronto, and I will post a screenshot of the receipt on the event page. Okay, so what I've done is gone in with, I didn't rinse out my paintbrush, I just took the red and I went in, and I already had some orange on my paintbrush. Okay, and what I'm doing now is I'm just going to wipe off this extra paint, because this has dried, and I want to go in with the yellow again, just to brighten up this area even more. Again, when you're painting details, you use a very light touch on the paintbrush. You don't want to press too hard. Otherwise, it's hard to get into those little areas without smudging and making thick lines. Okay, I want this yellow to blend into this red area, so I've just taken a little yellow and red on the paintbrush, and I'm just going to go in and very gently go over this area to blend it in. Get in that little corner with some red, just so it doesn't look like the wax has disappeared. This area is just a bit lighter with these lights reflecting. So I'm just going to go in with the yellow and very gently just tap some of this yellow into the red. And it's just tiny details that make the painting look so dramatically different. Okay, so for this one, this is mostly, a lot of it is in darkness, but we want these lights that are reflecting off of that candle, off of that flame into this melted wax. So again, I'm just taking yellow and red on the tip of my brush, more yellow, less red, because I want that to be nice and a nice bright orange. And what I'm going to do is put in this longer line closer to the flame. And then as I come out, I'll just be a little less. Okay, it looks like we've got some storm clouds or something coming. My room just got really dark. Open the curtains a bit for you there. I hope that brightens it up a bit. Okay, so we've got a really bright yellow spot right there. And what I'm going to do is take the yellow with a tiny dot of, tiny bit of white, and just add that in there. And a couple of here and there. Okay. Some yellow. And here again, I want to add in just a little bit more highlight now that it's dried and I can see how dark this has gotten. So I've already got this white and yellow on my paintbrush. I'm just going to take that and drag it out a bit. Cover that with some yellow so it's nice and bright. Blend it with my finger. Go over it with some red so that it's not too yellow but seems a bit orange. Okay. And this has also dried, and I'm going to go over that again. With that bright orange. When you're working with acrylic, some of it is very translucent and you need to go over it a couple of layers. But it dries really quick, so and just add a little bit of an edge over here. Where it's catching that light. It looks a bit too yellow. I'm going to add some, make that a bit more orange. Okay. Now I want to take some black and just neaten up some stuff around here before we go in for that, those final touches with the blue lights. So just taking a little bit of black to neaten things up. Rinse out your paintbrush really well. You don't want any reds or yellows at this point. I'm just going over some sketch lines that are visible over here as well. Neatening up anything that seems a bit sloppy. Okay. So just take a look over your painting and see if you've missed any white lines, any sketch lines, if anything needs to be neatened up, if your flame, because those were some very thin lines we were trying to make, and sometimes they don't go as perfectly as you would like. So you can go ahead and just erase those with black paint. Okay, I'm just going to check if anybody has any questions. Remember, you can type them into the comments. Any questions, or if you need me to slow down or anything else. Okay, this area is a bit too dark brown. I'm just going to go over it with some orange. Okay, and when you're done, all the neatening up and everything, you just rinse out your paintbrush and take a look at your work and see if there's anything you want to add. And I want to add just a little bit of some yellow highlight over here that is catching this candlelight, and wax is a bit translucent, so this area just seems to kind of glow, which is what I want. Just going over it with some yellow and then orange. And I'm going to pull that down so that it has that kind of gradual change in color. I want to brighten up this area too, which seems to have gotten dull. Just so that it looks nice and that kind of glowy look that the candles have. I want that. So any area you feel needs to be brightened up a little, you can just go over it. Okay, so for the step where we're going to make these blurred Bouquet Effect lights, I'm just taking some blue. And remember, you can just take a little bit at a time. You can take out more as you need it. Acrylic paint dries really fast and you end up wasting a lot of paint, so don't take out a whole bunch. Okay, so I've got some blue and white over here. I've just taken them in this little area over here, and I'm going to grab my round-tipped brush, which I've rinsed out really, really well. The step needs to make, you really need to make sure that your brush is clean for this step. Okay, and I'm going to take that white. I hope your palette is cleaner than mine. And that blue, and what I want is this, not a very dark blue, because this bouquet effect, it seems like the lights are very transparent and just these bright flashes. So you want a lighter color. Some of them will be darker, some of them will be lighter. And okay, let's start. You can use the photo as reference. I might not do each and every one of these circles. If you have something small and round and want to use that to trace, go ahead. I'm just going to kind of go in freehand, and I'm going to make this circle and fill that in. Okay, I'm going to take my finger and just smudge that. Okay, so you don't want it to be perfectly covered. It's going to have areas of light and dark, which if you look in the photograph is what it looks like. They are blurred lights. So okay, some of them are going to be darker, some of them are going to be lighter. So I'm just going in with a slightly darker color now, and they do overlap. And where they overlap, of course, it's going to be, some areas are again going to be, have more solid color in them. And again, I'm going to use my finger, just press that. You can even use your finger as a stamp and add in a couple more. Oops. Okay, so I feel like these are a bit small. I'm just going to go in and make it a bit bigger. So I don't want to have to do like a whole bunch of very small lights. I'm going to use my thumb, I guess. Smudge that, and also not waste that paint that I've got on there, and just go and use that to print it. Make this one bigger too. Smudge that. I really love this effect. It makes it look so dramatic. Okay, make this one slightly bigger. Smudge it. Print that. Okay, as you can see, I am making some of them darker, some of them are lighter, which is fine, which is what you want. Smudge that, print that. This is the fun part. This is where you get to relive kindergarten art class. Get into it with your hands. Okay, and I've got some lights over here. Okay, again, I'm not too worried about it being one even color. And have fun with this. You've worked so hard on your candles. This is the fun part. Okay, I want to add a bit more blue to this one. So that it looks all nice and glowy. This one a bit brighter and lighter. Don't forget, you want to make them look like they are see-through. So where they're overlapping, make sure you get the edges of both circles visible. I really love doing this part. This is like therapy. Just having fun with it. And I honestly really love this effect. I love photographs of city scenes at night where they've got all these blurred city lights. It looks so magical. And do make them overlap. That's what makes them look really pretty. And of course you have to go in, make sure you can see the edges on both sides so that they look see-through. darker one in here. And some of them will be really faded, which is fine, just leave them like that. And I think I've painted way more than there were in the photograph, but I'm just having so much fun with this. Okay, and that should be about it, unless of course you'd really want to just keep going with these blurred out lights, which are amazing. And as they dry, you might want to add some highlights to some of them, because you can see after they've dried if they need to be brightened up a bit. Acrylic paint dries darker than it originally appears. So sometimes you need to let it dry before you can figure out what you want to do with it. Okay, and that is about it. If you want to go in and fix up any details on your painting, just do it confidently and don't worry about it. If it's something that doesn't work, you can go back to it later and just let that dry and fix it up again. That's the best thing about acrylic paint. There really are no mistakes. You can basically fix anything. You just have to let it dry first. Always let it dry first. I know when I'm doing my live in-person paint sessions, people will get stuck on something because they're trying to go over it again and again with some paint. But just let it dry, and then you can go back and basically do anything you like with acrylic paint. That's the best thing about it. I'm just going over this part with some red, especially over the wick, so that it seems a bit more transparent. I'm going to blend in this orange a bit as well. And some yellow in there. And again, this part, I wanted it really bright, so I'm going to go over it with some white in there. Just going to go over this. And right now I just have a dry, clean brush that I'm using to blend this white into this area a bit. Okay. And I think that's about it. So please let me know if you have any questions, any ideas for if anybody has any requests about what they want to paint next time, or if they have a reference photo that they have permission to use, or I mean, we can change it around a little. We can change the colors or, you know, the subjects, whatever, so that we don't have a problem with anybody saying that, hey, that's my photograph, you can't paint that. So anything that inspires you, any photograph that you've taken yourself, any photograph that you have permission to use, or anyone that we can change around a bit, please let me know. You can send it to me. And if you when you're done these paintings, I would love to see a picture of them, and I will hopefully put them up on my page. I love it when people send me the work that they've created when they've painted along. It's just it's so satisfying to see people, you know, create their own little version of what we painted, and everybody has unique work, and it makes me so happy. So I'd love to see them. Please do send them in. Any questions, please feel free to email me, or you can like message me on Facebook anytime about what paint I used or what canvas or where to buy supplies. I always share that. I've shared it so many times. So any questions, just please go ahead and text me, and hopefully see you next time.